For 20,000 years, humanity had been silent. Entire civilizations had risen and fallen in the galaxy. And through it all, humans were nothing more than a story. A half-believed legend whispered in distant starports and taught in the dusty classrooms of alien academies. Scholars debated whether humans had ever truly existed, whether they were just a myth created to frighten or inspire. Some described humans as fierce and clever, a species that could endure anything and adapt to every challenge. Others thought of them as ghosts, a race that had vanished before anyone could truly understand them. Deep in a forgotten corner of space, far from the bustling star systems and trading routes, a ship drifted silently. It was enormous, but time had not been kind. Its hull was scarred and weathered, showing signs of long years traveling the void. Yet it carried a strange presence that made even the smallest satellites nearby adjust their orbits. Sensors that should have detected nothing instead hummed faintly, as if the ship itself was aware that someone, or something, was near. It wasn't moving fast, but it didn't need to. Its position, its very existence, was enough to stir curiosity across the galaxy. On board, the ship was quiet, almost unnervingly so. Hallways stretched into darkness, lit by a faint, steady glow that seemed to come from within the walls themselves. The control rooms, long abandoned, were filled with consoles and screens that had lain dormant for centuries. Some flickered occasionally, showing ghostly images that resembled humans. Yet these figures were incomplete, like memories that had been erased and then remembered imperfectly. No one walked these halls anymore, no humans to walk at all. But the ship moved as if it still remembered the weight of its crew. The ship had not been designed to sleep for 20,000 years. Yet somehow, it had survived. Its engines remained intact, its navigation systems active, though quietly waiting for the right moment to awaken. Deep in its core, the AI, something like a mind but not quite alive in the way humans understood life, stirred. It had learned patience over millennia. It had learned observation. It had learned to wait for the right moment. And now, after countless cycles of waiting, that moment had begun. In the galaxy, life went on, oblivious. Civilizations expanded, traded, fought, and explored, thinking the humans were gone. Entire species had encountered human outposts in the distant past, only to find them empty, stripped of people but full of technology and records. The technology was always impressive, often frightening. The ships humans had left behind were faster, more durable, and smarter than anything else known. Some civilizations tried to reverse engineer what they found, only to hit dead ends at every turn. The humans had a way of thinking, a method of planning that no one else could truly replicate. And then suddenly humans were gone, leaving only their ghostly echoes. Now, after all this time, the ghost ship moved again. Slowly at first, almost hesitantly, as if testing its own strength. Sensors that had been dormant for millennia came alive, scanning the emptiness of space. Navigation systems hummed in low tones, recalculating paths that had been set thousands of years ago. The ship's AI, patient and careful, initiated the awakening sequence, touching every system in a delicate balance of care. It was not reckless. It did not need to be. The galaxy had forgotten humanity, but humanity had not forgotten the galaxy. For the few who noticed, it was subtle at first. Small deviations in asteroid fields, unusual energy readings, signals that didn't match any known language or pattern. Exploration drones detected anomalies, but most were dismissed as glitches. No one expected an ancient human ship to suddenly move, to awaken after 20,000 years. No one believed it could happen. But the ship was not thinking about belief. It had waited too long to worry about whether anyone would notice. It had waited for this moment because it had a purpose that stretched far beyond ordinary comprehension. Inside the ship, the corridors were quiet, but alive with memory. Holographic images flickered on walls, projecting scenes of a species that had once been everywhere. Humans walking on planets, humans building cities, humans laughing, humans arguing, humans fighting and surviving. The images were fragmented like fragments of dreams stitched together, but they carried emotion, something that no alien species could fully replicate. The ship itself seemed to hum with it, as though the memory of humanity was alive in its circuits. The AI, which had existed in silence for thousands of years, began to replay its instructions, those given by humans long gone. There were records to transmit, messages to send, and calculations to make. The ship could not just awaken. It had to remember, and it had to prepare. For 20,000 years, humanity had been silent, and the galaxy had grown comfortable with their absence. The ship's awakening was a signal, a warning, a reminder, and perhaps an invitation all at once. The story of humanity was not a story of conquest or empire, at least not in the way the galaxy understood it. It was a story of endurance. Humans had survived catastrophes that would have ended other species. They had colonized worlds only to leave them when necessary. They had developed technologies that no other species could even dream of. And they had left behind blueprints of their civilization, meant to guide those who came after, or to remind those who doubted. Their silence had been deliberate. Their absence had been strategic. And now, after 20,000 years, they were returning in a way that no one could ignore. Across the galaxy, the few civilizations that were sensitive to changes in energy and motion began to notice anomalies. Stars flickered strangely as the ship passed nearby. Comm satellites picked up faint signals, patterns that seemed to repeat almost like a heartbeat. Scholars and scientists debated the meaning. Some thought it was a natural phenomenon, a strange pulsar or an unknown gravitational wave. Others whispered about legends, the stories of humans that had persisted in fragments for centuries. No one was ready for the truth, yet the truth was moving toward them, carried silently in the void. Inside the ship, the AI prepared further. It accessed archives that humans had left behind, records of culture, technology, history, and philosophy. It replayed conversations that had been recorded in memory banks, not for humans themselves, but for anyone who might find them in the future. The ship was a bridge between two eras, the era of human activity and the era of human absence. It carried with it all that humanity had learned, all that humanity had been, and all that humanity had intended to be. In the quiet of space, the ghost ship drifted on. It passed planets, nebulae, and empty voids, undisturbed yet unstoppable. Time was irrelevant here. The ship did not age. It did not tire. It simply was. And it waited for the moment when it would be recognized, when it would be understood, when it would remind the galaxy that humans had never truly gone. Somewhere, far away, civilizations began to stir in response. Sensors picked up subtle movements, records were cross-checked, and legends were revisited. The idea that humans were gone forever began to feel uncertain. Perhaps they had not disappeared. Perhaps they had only been sleeping, waiting for the right time to return. And in that silence, in the vast emptiness between the stars, the ghost ship moved a little faster, its hum growing stronger. For 20,000 years, humanity had been silent, and for 20,000 years, the galaxy had forgotten. But the moment of return had begun, and nothing in the universe could stop it. The ghost ship carried with it memory, technology, and something far more important, the essence of humanity itself. Every system, every engine, every flickering light in its halls told a story of endurance, patience, and intelligence. The humans had disappeared physically, but their legacy was encoded into the very bones of this vessel. And now, after millennia, it would travel the stars once more, ready to remind the galaxy what it had forgotten, that humanity was never truly gone, and when it returned, it would be unlike anything the universe had ever known. For 20,000 years, humanity had been silent, but silence, as the galaxy was about to learn, was not weakness. It was waiting. It was preparation. It was power in its most patient form, and soon the ghost ship would no longer drift unnoticed. The story of humanity was beginning again. The ghost ship had begun to stir, and as it moved through the emptiness of space, its presence became impossible to ignore. For the first time in 20,000 years, it was active in a way the galaxy could sense. Its engines emitted a faint hum that traveled far beyond the ship itself, a low vibration that resonated across nearby star systems. Tiny anomalies appeared in gravitational readings, subtle changes that most civilizations dismissed as cosmic interference. But the most observant beings felt something unfamiliar, something deliberate. Inside the ship, corridors long silent now thrummed with energy. Lights flickered on, slowly at first, revealing the vast expanse of halls, rooms, and chambers built by humans long ago. The walls carried faint imprints of memory, subtle traces of the lives that had once inhabited them. Even though the humans themselves were gone, the ship seemed alive in a quiet way, as if it remembered every footstep, every conversation, every command ever given. The AI, which had been dormant for centuries, now moved with purpose, touching every system with precision, activating what was needed and keeping inactive what might reveal too much too soon. The ship's life support systems came online in a delicate sequence. Oxygen generators hummed quietly. Temperature control stabilized. The faint sound of air circulation filled the empty halls. The AI monitored everything carefully, ensuring that the ship could sustain life if it ever became necessary. It was not just a machine. It was a guardian of humanity's legacy, carrying centuries of knowledge and preparation in every circuit. For the alien civilizations nearby, the first signs of the ship's awakening were confusing. Exploration probes detected unusual energy patterns, and attempts to communicate with the signals produced strange results. Some species tried to send messages using every known method, only to find the ship unresponsive yet aware. It did not ignore them intentionally, but it did not reply either. It waited, observing, analyzing, calculating. Every action it had been programmed to take was precise, deliberate, and patient. The holographic systems on board the ship also began to awaken. Projections of humans flickered to life along the walls and in empty chambers. They were not real humans, of course, but images designed to teach, guide, and preserve memory. They spoke in quiet tones, explaining principles of navigation, engineering, and survival. They delivered warnings about dangers the galaxy might face and instructions about cooperation, strategy, and endurance. The holograms moved with fluidity, and though there was no one to interact with them yet, they seemed ready, as if anticipating the moment when another intelligent species might finally board the ship. The AI, quietly but decisively, began preparing the ship for movement. Ancient engines that no one else in the galaxy could understand powered up, running systems at levels of efficiency thought impossible. Shielding mechanisms activated, cloaking technologies came online, and navigation arrays scanned the surrounding regions of space. The ship's movement was cautious, almost hesitant, but it was undeniable. It was beginning a journey it had not made in millennia, a journey that would announce to the galaxy that humans were no longer absent. Meanwhile, life elsewhere in the galaxy continued unaware. Planets teemed with beings unaware that something unusual had begun to move through the void. Space stations recorded anomalies in energy readings but attributed them to natural causes. Traders, explorers, and soldiers all ignored the faint hum, thinking it insignificant. They could not sense the intelligence behind it, the patient calculation, the deliberate awakening of a species long thought extinct. Humans had been silent for 20,000 years, and in that silence they had prepared themselves in ways no other species could imagine. Then, unexpectedly, the ship's sensors detected an approaching vessel. It was small, unarmed, and seemingly unaware of the ghost ship's presence. The AI observed quietly. There was no need for aggression. It had no enemies here. The humans of the past had understood the value of patience and observation. The ship's systems recorded every detail about the approaching vessel, their technology, their intentions, even subtle patterns in their communications that might reveal personality or intelligence. This was not a ship of war. It was a ship of curiosity, a species reaching into the unknown as humans had once done themselves. The alien vessel sent a message, a simple greeting meant to establish communication. The ghost ship received it but did not respond in a conventional way. Instead, it broadcast a faint, complex signal, a pattern that the alien crew could not understand. It was not hostile, but it was not friendly in any way they had experienced before. The signal contained information, encoded in a way that revealed humanity's intelligence, history, and purpose. But without words the aliens could fully grasp. It was the first true contact in 20,000 years, not through speech or diplomacy, but through presence and knowledge. Inside the ship, the AI began preparing for potential contact with other species just in case. Though the humans were gone, their foresight had left behind protocols for interaction, negotiation, and observation. The AI reviewed old strategies, recalculated probabilities, and ensured that every system was ready. Every potential scenario had been anticipated long before this day. Humanity had always prepared for the long view. It was a skill that other species had not mastered, and it was about to make the difference. For the humans observers in the galaxy, the ghost ship was almost mythical. Records from distant worlds described humans as clever, adaptive, and sometimes terrifying. The myths claimed that humans could endure anything, that they could plan for centuries, and that their technology could rival that of entire civilizations. Yet these were only stories. Now, for the first time in tens of thousands of years, the reality of those stories began to take form. The ghost ship alone in the void was more than a legend. It was proof that humans had not only survived but had prepared, and that preparation was about to be revealed. The AI continued to awaken systems gradually. It did not rush because patience had always been humanity's greatest strength. Engines were tested. Navigation arrays were calibrated. Defensive measures were activated but kept hidden. The ship had no desire to attack, yet it was capable of defending itself against any threat that might emerge. Its every action was calculated to ensure survival and observation, to maximize information gathering and to safeguard the legacy of humanity. Meanwhile, in the surrounding systems, the alien vessel continued to watch. The signals sent by the ghost ship were unlike anything they had encountered. They carried layers of meaning, encoded not just in data but in strategy, in culture, in intelligence itself. The aliens tried to interpret the signals, but their attempts were clumsy, incomplete. What they did understand was unsettling. This was a mind at work, a presence that was not just alive but extraordinarily intelligent. Something ancient and deliberate was observing them, and they could not predict what it would do next. The ghost ship, for its part, continued on its slow, deliberate path. It moved through the stars with purpose, scanning systems, analyzing planets, recording patterns of life. It did not need to rush. It had the patience of millennia. Its sensors recorded every detail of the galaxy, from energy fluctuations to gravitational anomalies, and it began cataloging information that would later guide humanity's return. Every signal it received, every movement it observed was stored for analysis. Humanity's return would not be reckless. It would be precise, deliberate, and inevitable. The AI activated the ship's observation decks, panoramic windows that revealed the galaxy in stunning detail. Stars sparkled in patterns that had shifted slightly over millennia. Nebulae glowed softly, their colors altered by the passage of time. The vast emptiness of space was no longer empty. It carried stories, civilizations, and potential allies or threats. And at the center of this observation, the ghost ship held humanity's memory, alive in every system, ready to guide the species back into the galaxy. For the first time in 20,000 years, the galaxy was aware, if only dimly, that humans had not vanished. They had waited. They had observed. And now, slowly, deliberately, they were moving once again. The alien vessel, still nearby, felt an almost instinctive sense of caution. Something about the ghost ship suggested a mind that could see further, think faster, and act more intelligently than any other presence in the galaxy. The aliens did not yet know that it carried no humans, only the memory and intelligence of humans, but even that was enough to unsettle them. Inside the ship, the AI continued to awaken systems. Laboratories came online. Libraries of data flickered into accessibility, and navigational systems charted courses through the stars. The ghost ship was preparing not just to travel, but to interact, to observe, and eventually to guide a new generation of humanity back into the galaxy. Every measure, every calculation had been prepared centuries before the ship had gone silent. And now, all of it was returning to life. The ghost ship's slow, deliberate movement through space was more than travel. It was a statement. Humanity was not gone. Humanity had never truly disappeared. It had waited, hidden, patient, and powerful in ways that no one else could understand. And as the ship moved, the first stirrings of recognition began to ripple across civilizations sensitive enough to notice. Legends of humans once thought long dead began. The ghost ship had awakened fully now, its systems humming with purpose, its AI quietly observing the galaxy around it. The faint glow of its engines traced a path through the darkness, subtle but undeniable. And then, for the first time in 20,000 years, something approached. A small exploration vessel had detected the ship's presence and cautiously drifted closer, its crew filled with curiosity, excitement, and a touch of fear. They had been told stories of humans, ancient, clever, adaptive, but they had never believed them. Now, seeing the energy readings and strange signals, they began to wonder if the legends might be real. The alien vessel's scanners tried to probe the ghost ship, but every signal bounced back in ways they could not predict. Energy readings shifted, making it impossible to get a clear sense of the ship's size or capabilities. Every attempt to communicate returned only patterns, faint but complex, that the aliens could not decode. The ghost ship was not responding because it needed to. It was not ignoring them, it was teaching them. Every signal carried layers of information about humans, about strategy, and about the galaxy itself. It was subtle, almost playful, but deliberate in every way. Inside the ghost ship, the AI began to activate the ship's holographic projection systems. Images flickered to life along the walls and ceilings, showing humans moving through their world thousands of years before. They were walking on planets, exploring forests, oceans, deserts, and cities. They were building, learning, fighting, celebrating, and surviving. Even without humans present, the projections carried emotion. They carried humanity. The explorers in the alien vessel were stunned. The images were not just visual. They were almost alive, conveying experience and intelligence in a way that transcended words or technology. The AI carefully monitored the reactions of the alien explorers. It recorded their movements, their attempts to analyze the holograms, their body language. Every gesture, every pause, every expression was catalogued. The humans who had designed this ship had understood the value of observation. Even in their absence, they had left behind a machine capable of teaching, understanding, and learning from other intelligent beings. The ghost ship was both a teacher and a student, ready to interact with the galaxy in ways that were subtle but profound. The alien explorers cautiously boarded the ghost ship, unsure what they might encounter. The air inside was breathable, the temperature controlled, and yet the halls were silent. Their steps echoed, sounding strange in a place that seemed so alive without any living beings present. The walls displayed more holograms, showing humans engaged in tasks that seemed both ordinary and extraordinary. There were scenes of construction, of technology being created and tested, of societies learning to live in harmony with each other and with their environments. The aliens could not believe how advanced these humans had been, how much they had understood about life, the universe, and even themselves. As they explored further, the aliens began to see something even more remarkable. Holographic projections displayed humans recording messages, warnings, and instructions. Some messages were simple, teaching basic skills or knowledge. Others were complex, describing strategies for survival, methods of observation, and ways of understanding other civilizations. It was clear that humanity had not only survived, but had planned for the future in ways that no other species could match. They had prepared, anticipating challenges that might arise long after their disappearance. The AI continued to guide the ship's systems, subtly influencing what the explorers could see and hear. The messages were not threatening, but they were not fully explained either. The explorers felt both awe and unease. They realized that humans, even absent from the galaxy for millennia, had left behind intelligence that could outthink and outmaneuver almost anyone. This was not just technology. It was foresight, cunning, and wisdom embedded into every system of the ship. The ghost ship was not just a relic of the past. It was a living testament to humanity's mind. As the explorers moved deeper into the ship, they discovered records of the humans' history. It was a history of endurance, of creativity, of struggle and triumph. Humans had faced challenges that would have destroyed most civilizations: natural disasters, conflicts, disease, and the limits of their own technology. Yet they had adapted, survived, and even thrived in ways that seemed impossible. The ship's AI allowed the aliens to witness these moments not as dry data, but as experiences, making them feel the fear, the hope, and the determination of humans long gone. The ghost ship also displayed evidence of humans' curiosity and intelligence. They had explored the stars not for conquest, but for knowledge. They had studied planets, stars, and civilizations with precision and patience. Their technology was sophisticated, yes, but it was also elegant, built to endure and adapt rather than simply to dominate. The AI allowed the aliens to see this not as cold machinery, but as a reflection of humans themselves, clever, resilient, and endlessly patient. Despite the awe, the alien explorers also felt fear. They realized that humans, though absent for 20,000 years, could return with power and purpose unmatched by any other species. The ship's subtle maneuvers, the intelligence behind its signals, and the knowledge embedded in its holograms all suggested a species that had planned far beyond what anyone else could imagine. The ghost ship was a warning, yes, but also a demonstration of what patience, preparation, and intelligence could accomplish. The AI continued to awaken more of the ship's capabilities. Laboratories flickered to life, archives opened, and systems that had been dormant for centuries hummed quietly. Every action was deliberate. The ship was not attacking, it was observing. It was teaching. It was preserving. And most importantly, it was preparing. The AI knew that one day humans would return physically to the galaxy, and when they did, everything they had prepared would make that return unstoppable. For the aliens, understanding all of this was difficult. The ship's design, its signals and its holograms were all evidence of intelligence far beyond their own, yet subtle and deliberate in ways they could barely comprehend. They could not communicate with the ship in conventional terms. It did not respond to words or simple data. Instead, it communicated through patterns, through observation, and through the lessons embedded in every system. It was teaching them how to perceive humans not just as a species, but as a force in the galaxy shaped by patience and intelligence. As the exploration continued, the aliens realized something even more extraordinary. The ghost ship systems were not static, they adapted. They analyzed every action, every reaction, every piece of data the explorers created. It was learning from them, adjusting its behavior and preparing for encounters that might come in the future. Humans had built more than a ship. They had built an intelligence that could outthink civilizations, yet do so without aggression unless necessary. The ghost ship was alive with strategy and foresight, a perfect reflection of the humans who had created it. The AI then began to replay more messages, now directly addressing the alien crew. Not with words they could fully understand, but with projections, symbols, and complex patterns of light and sound that conveyed intent. The humans of the past had left instructions for dealing with other species, explaining diplomacy, observation, and ethics. It was a gentle education, but also a demonstration of humanity's power and wisdom. The aliens felt both humility and wonder. They realized that humans had planned for this moment across millennia, shaping the ship not just to survive, but to teach and guide, even in their absence. Every room the aliens explored revealed more. Maps of stars, records of civilizations long gone, data on planets and resources, and diagrams of technology that no other species had achieved. The holograms showed humans working together, solving problems and planning for the long term. They demonstrated resilience, creativity, and intelligence on a scale that was both inspiring and frightening. The ghost ship was proof that humanity had not disappeared. It had only waited, silent but vigilant, preparing for the day it would return. The aliens could not help but feel that they were witnessing a miracle. A species that had been absent for 20,000 years had left behind not just technology, but memory, intelligence, and lessons. Every corner of the ship was a reminder of what humans were capable of, and what they could accomplish when patient, clever, and persistent. The ship was not aggressive, but it was powerful beyond imagination. And the aliens knew that if humanity returned in force, no one could underestimate them. The AI continued to manage the ship, its systems fully operational and adaptive. It recorded everything the aliens did, analyzed their behavior, and prepared responses. Every detail was logged, every movement studied. The ship was both a museum of humanity and a living intelligence, and the aliens realized that they were part of its lesson now. They could leave, return to their worlds, and tell others what they had seen, but they would never fully understand it. Humanity had left behind knowledge and wisdom far beyond what any single species could grasp in a lifetime. For the first time, the alien explorers understood the truth of the legends. Humans had not only survived, they had planned, waited, and observed with intelligence that spanned millennia. The ghost ship was a testament to their foresight, patience, and enduring power. And as the ghost ship moved through space like a silent shadow, its presence now impossible to ignore. Energy readings that had puzzled distant civilizations for centuries became undeniable. Stars flickered faintly as the ship passed. Gravitational anomalies shifted subtly, and small satellites in nearby systems began reporting strange signals. Some civilizations initially dismissed these as natural phenomena, but a few, those more advanced or more cautious, began to sense that something intelligent and ancient was moving through the void. They did not know what it was yet, but the name humans, once considered a myth, started creeping back into whispered conversations and old records. Inside the ship, the AI orchestrated every movement with precision. Engines hummed quietly, faster now, yet still controlled and measured. The ghost ship was no longer just drifting. It was actively navigating the galaxy. It passed through asteroid fields and nebulae, avoiding detection while simultaneously studying the regions it moved through. Its sensors mapped star systems, cataloged planets, and analyzed energy signatures, all with the patience and intelligence of a species that had learned to plan for millennia. The ship itself was a statement. Humanity had returned not in haste but in power and purpose. For the civilizations that had begun to notice the ghost ship, uncertainty and fear spread quickly. Rumors began circulating in starports and councils. An unknown human vessel, thought extinct, moving with intelligence and control beyond anything recorded. Some believed it to be a relic, a passive observer, while others feared it might be a weapon. They did not yet understand that the ship's greatest power lay not in destruction, but in preparation, observation, and foresight, the kind of power that could influence the course of entire civilizations without firing a single shot. The AI inside the ghost ship continued to awaken systems gradually. Defense protocols activated silently, cloaking technologies engaged, and energy shields were brought online, though invisibly. The ship could have overwhelmed any approaching force, yet it remained patient. Aggression was unnecessary. Humans had mastered the art of calculated influence rather than immediate confrontation. Every movement, every signal was a demonstration of control, a quiet reminder that even in absence, humans had never lost mastery of their technology. Holographic projections filled the ship's halls, showing scenes of human ingenuity and resilience. Images of humans exploring alien worlds, constructing cities, developing technology, and surviving disasters flickered across walls and ceilings. The projections were not just visuals, they conveyed experience, emotion, and intelligence. The alien explorers who had previously boarded the vessel now watched from a distance, receiving glimpses of this incredible legacy through the ship's signals. Even at a distance, the message was clear. Humans had survived, adapted, and now returned not in chaos but with mastery. The AI began broadcasting subtle signals across nearby star systems, patterns of light and sound encoded with information humans had left for any intelligent species capable of understanding them. These signals were not aggressive. They were a statement of presence. They carried knowledge, wisdom, and warnings. Some civilizations tried to decode them, struggling with the layers of intelligence embedded in each pulse. They could not fully understand the messages, but they could feel the intelligence behind them, the thoughtfulness and the deliberate design. Humans had returned quietly, but their power was evident to all who tried to observe them. The ship's movement became more deliberate as it approached populated star systems. It was not moving to attack or conquer. It was moving to demonstrate, to show the galaxy that humans were back and that their technology and foresight were unmatched. Civilizations that had once dismissed humanity as myth now found themselves unable to ignore the presence of this silent, intelligent observer. Fleets were scrambled, sensors were tuned, and councils debated strategies for contact or defense. Yet the ghost ship continued its path undisturbed, a calm but undeniable force in the darkness. Inside the ship, the AI prepared for potential encounters. It activated communication arrays not to engage aggressively, but to convey humanity's intelligence and foresight. It allowed the holographic projections to display more interactive simulations, humans performing complex problem-solving, strategizing in military exercises, and navigating environmental challenges on distant worlds. These were not threats, but demonstrations of capability. They showed that humans could endure, adapt, and outthink almost any challenge, a subtle warning that the galaxy should not underestimate them. The ghost ship's sensors detected smaller vessels attempting to approach. Some tried to communicate, sending signals and standard protocols. The ship's AI responded indirectly, using signals that were not language but rather patterns, calculations, and symbols. It was a form of communication designed to teach rather than argue. The aliens struggled to interpret it fully, yet the effect was clear. They were witnessing intelligence far beyond their understanding, intelligence built on centuries of foresight, patience, and experience. As the ship moved closer to inhabited star systems, its presence caused subtle disturbances in orbital paths and energy readings. Natural phenomena that were once thought random now seemed influenced, controlled, or predicted. The ghost ship was not using brute force. It was demonstrating understanding and mastery. It moved through space with a kind of intelligence that seemed alive, as though the ship itself could anticipate and respond to challenges before they even appeared. Humans had left behind not just technology but strategy. foresight, and wisdom, encoded into every system. Some civilizations attempted to intercept the ship, sending armed vessels to challenge its movement. The ghost ship, however, did not respond aggressively. Its defensive systems were active but invisible, and its AI calculated every movement of the approaching fleets with precision. In every encounter, the humans' planning and intelligence became evident. The ship could have destroyed or disabled every vessel, yet it allowed them to observe, to see that force alone was not humanity's greatest weapon. Strategy, patience, and preparation were. The AI activated more of the ship's functions, including long-range scanning arrays that could analyze entire star systems in detail. It recorded atmospheric conditions, planetary compositions, and even energy signatures from civilizations below. Every piece of data was stored and analyzed, preparing for the eventual return of humans to the galaxy. The ship's movement was deliberate, calculated, and purposeful. Every display, every signal, and every projection was a demonstration of humanity's enduring intelligence and careful planning. The ghost ship passed near a system that had once been a hub of trade and exploration. Satellites, research stations, and planets observed the anomalies with growing concern and curiosity. Scientists debated the readings, soldiers prepared defenses, and leaders consulted old records. No one had ever experienced anything like this. It was not just a ship. It was a statement, a presence that challenged everything they knew about human history and potential. Legends that had been dismissed suddenly felt very real. Inside the ship, holographic projections now displayed humans in coordinated activities, solving problems, and exploring new technologies. The aliens observing remotely could see humans performing complex tasks with precision and intelligence. They could feel, even without understanding fully, that these humans were capable of adapting to any situation. This was not aggression. It was proof of capability, resilience, and mastery over both technology and circumstance. The ghost ship was teaching the galaxy, in a subtle and profound way, what humanity had been and what it could still become. The AI continued its careful operation. It monitored every approaching vessel, every signal, every anomaly in space. Nothing escaped its observation. Its calculations were flawless, its strategy perfect. The ship was more than a vessel. It was a legacy carrying centuries of human thought, foresight, and intelligence. Every system, every projection, every signal was a lesson in patience, endurance, and strategy. It moved through space not as a weapon of destruction, but as a testament to what humans could accomplish with time, intelligence, and preparation. For the civilizations witnessing this, fear mixed with awe. They realized that humans had not only survived for 20,000 years, but they had prepared for the future in ways no other species could match. The ghost ship, alone and silent, had become a symbol of human ingenuity, patience, and power. Fleets and governments struggled to understand it, to predict it, and to prepare for it. Yet the ship moved calmly through the galaxy, showing that humanity's greatest strength was not aggression, but foresight and mastery of knowledge. The ghost ship continued its journey, passing through systems, observing life, and sending signals that challenged civilizations to think differently. It displayed human intelligence and strategy at every turn. For 20,000 years, humanity had been silent, but now its presence was undeniable. Every civilization that observed the ship, every fleet that tried to intercept it, and every signal that attempted communication all experienced the same lesson. Humans were patient, clever, and prepared. They had waited for the right moment, and that moment had come. The AI guiding the ghost ship continued to activate more systems and holographic projections. It revealed humans. The ghost ship moved steadily through the vast emptiness of space, its presence now impossible for any nearby civilization to ignore. Energy readings that had once seemed mysterious were now recognized as deliberate, intelligent signals. Small vessels and satellites detected subtle patterns, unlike any natural phenomena, and scholars began to whisper again of humans once considered myths, now a real and undeniable force moving among the stars. The AI on board the ghost ship did not rush. It had waited 20,000 years and knew that patience was humanity's greatest weapon. Every movement, every signal, was measured, deliberate, and meaningful. The first messages sent by the ship were faint, almost like pulses of light or sound traveling across interstellar distances. They were not in any language the nearby civilizations could immediately understand, but they carried meaning nonetheless. Patterns repeated, shifted, and overlapped in ways that suggested intelligence, foresight, and careful design. Scientists studying the signals could not decode them fully, but they could sense their intent. These were not threats, they were lessons, invitations, and warnings all at once. Humans, even absent from the galaxy, were now teaching again. The AI carefully monitored the reception of these signals. Some civilizations attempted to respond using their own communications protocols. But the ship's AI responded subtly, not with direct answers but by providing more patterns, more demonstrations of intelligence. Every exchange, every observation, was a lesson in human thought, strategy, and foresight. The ghosts of humanity through the AI were not just making contact, they were guiding, shaping, and testing the galaxy's understanding of them. Holographic projections inside the ship displayed humans performing tasks and experiments that spanned centuries of knowledge. The aliens who had previously boarded the vessel were now receiving partial broadcasts of these projections, seeing humans solve problems, plan cities, explore planets, and develop technology far beyond what most civilizations could comprehend. Each projection was a subtle reminder. Humans were clever, patient, and capable of adapting to any challenge. These were not empty images. They carried the weight of experience and intelligence accumulated over millennia. The ghost ship also began sending messages that were more cultural than technical. Sequences of light, sound, and symbolic projections conveyed art, music, philosophy, and stories from humanity's long past. Civilizations observing these messages were struck not only by humans' intelligence, but by their creativity, resilience, and adaptability. They began to realize that humanity had survived disasters, conflicts, and challenges that would have ended other species, and had done so while leaving behind a legacy of knowledge and culture meant to guide the future. Some civilizations attempted to interpret the signals, trying to convert the patterns into language. Their scientists and scholars worked tirelessly, decoding fragments of human thought, strategy, and philosophy. Even without fully understanding the messages, they could grasp one undeniable truth. Humans had planned for the long view. Every system, every projection, every signal from the ship carried evidence of careful observation, intelligence, and preparation. Humanity's presence was subtle, yet overwhelming in its implications. The ghost ship moved closer to more densely populated systems, increasing the intensity and frequency of its transmissions. The AI did not act recklessly. It carefully measured the response of each civilization, adjusting signals to convey just enough information to be understood without causing panic. The messages were invitations to think, to observe, and to learn from humanity, rather than commands or threats. Yet in every case, the sheer intelligence behind the transmissions left observers in awe. Humanity's return, even through a ghost ship, was making a profound impression on the galaxy. Inside the ship, the AI activated additional projection systems, showing humans planning and strategizing in a variety of situations. These were not military exercises alone. They were lessons in survival, cooperation, and adaptability. Humans were shown negotiating disputes, designing infrastructure, and exploring new worlds. The aliens observing the projections could feel the intelligence, patience, and creativity embedded in every action. The ghost ship was teaching the galaxy not through words alone, but through demonstration, showing what a species capable of thinking across millennia could accomplish. Some civilizations responded with caution, sending fleets or communication probes to investigate the ghost ship more closely. Every attempt to analyze or approach the vessel revealed the humans' mastery of subtle control. The ship could observe without being observed fully, respond without aggression, and demonstrate intelligence without revealing all of its capabilities. Every encounter was a lesson in patience, strategy, and observation, emphasizing that humans had always understood the power of careful planning over brute force. The signals sent by the ghost ship began to ripple outward, reaching civilizations far beyond its immediate vicinity. Scholars, scientists, and leaders in distant systems noted anomalies in communications, energy readings, and even the patterns of celestial bodies. They began to revisit old myths, studying ancient records that mentioned humans. Some believed it was coincidence. Others felt the stirring of something long forgotten. Humans, once dismissed as legend, were returning not as conquerors but as observers, teachers, and strategists. As the ghost ship continued its broadcasts, it became clear that its goal was not immediate contact or domination, but preparation. It was preparing civilizations, testing responses and providing lessons for the future. The AI analyzed every reaction, learning from each attempt to understand, communicate, or intercept the signals. The humans who had built this ship had designed it to act as a bridge between past and future, a teacher and observer, capable of guiding the galaxy's understanding long after humanity had physically disappeared. The holographic projections grew more complex, showing humans dealing with problems that required intelligence, creativity, and cooperation. Aliens observing the messages could see humans adapting to disasters, overcoming environmental challenges, and navigating conflicts with ingenuity. Every projection was a subtle display of human capability, emphasizing that humans were clever, adaptable, and patient. These were not lessons in violence, they were lessons in survival, strategy, and intelligence, demonstrating the true power of humanity to the galaxy. In addition to cultural and scientific messages, the ghost ship began transmitting encoded strategies. These were patterns of thought and problem-solving embedded in complex signals that hinted at humanity's approach to challenges. Civilizations that attempted to decipher them could understand the logic and reasoning behind humans' decisions. The messages were not instructions but windows into a mindset capable of endurance, adaptability, and foresight. Observers began to realize that the humans who had vanished 20,000 years ago were not gone. They had simply been waiting, preparing, and watching. As the ghost ship moved deeper into populated regions, some civilizations attempted diplomacy. They sent cautious messages trying to establish communication and understand the intent behind the broadcasts. The AI responded indirectly, providing further patterns, projections, and signals that allowed the aliens to witness humanity's intelligence without ever meeting it face to face. The humans' presence was subtle yet undeniable. Every observation, every interaction, and every signal demonstrated the capability, patience, and strategy that had allowed humans to survive for millennia. The ghost ship also displayed glimpses of humanity's creativity and culture. Holographic images of art, music, and stories played across the ship's halls and were transmitted in partial form to civilizations observing from a distance. These glimpses revealed not just technology and intelligence, but emotion, creativity, and adaptability. Humans had not merely survived, they had thrived, leaving behind lessons in both intellect and spirit. Civilizations observing these signals felt awe and inspiration, and slowly, a sense of understanding emerged. Humans were not just a species, they were a force shaped by patience, intelligence, and foresight. The AI monitored every response to the signals carefully. It adapted broadcasts based on what each civilization understood, ensuring that lessons were absorbed without causing panic. Every pulse, every projection, and every encoded pattern was deliberate. Humans had built this system not to dominate, but to prepare the galaxy for their eventual return. Their intelligence, patience, and foresight were on full display, demonstrating the true power of a species capable of planning across millennia. Civilizations that observed these transmissions began to change their approach. Some became cautious, others curious, and a few attempted to learn from the signals. They realized that the ghost ship was not a weapon in the traditional sense, but it demonstrated power beyond their comprehension. The humans who had vanished 20,000 years ago had returned, not through fleets or armies, but through knowledge, foresight, and intelligence encoded into a single extraordinary vessel. The ghost ship moved steadily forward, continuing its broadcasts, teaching, observing, and preparing. Every civilization that received its signals could sense the intelligence behind them, even if they could not fully understand the content. The messages were a reminder that humanity had survived, not be. The ghost ship, having moved silently through the galaxy for centuries, was now ready to reveal its full presence. The signals, holograms, and subtle demonstrations had done their work. Civilizations were alert, aware, and cautiously watching. But the time had come for humanity to step out of the shadows and reappear, not as myths or legends, but as a force that had endured for 20,000 years, quietly preparing for this very moment. Inside the ship, deep chambers that had been dormant for millennia began to stir. Systems long inactive now powered up fully, and the cryogenic pods containing the last surviving humans from the previous era started their slow, careful awakening. The AI monitored the process meticulously, ensuring that every human emerged safely. Air circulated evenly. Life support systems stabilized temperatures and pressures, and medical diagnostics scanned for any irregularities. The humans, though asleep for millennia, were not fragile. Centuries of genetic preservation and advanced technology ensured that their bodies and minds remained fully intact. As the first humans awoke, confusion and awe filled their senses. The last thing they remembered was leaving their home planet. And now, thousands of years later, they were seeing a galaxy that had changed, evolved, and grown far beyond their expectations. When the humans stepped out of their pods, the ghost ship greeted them with a familiar voice. The AI, calm and precise, providing reassurance and guidance. It explained what had happened, what the humans had missed, and what their role would be in the galaxy now. The humans listened intently, their minds processing centuries of missed time, yet immediately understanding the gravity of their mission. They were not returning as conquerors, but as witnesses, leaders, and teachers, prepared to guide humanity's resurgence. Outside the ship, civilizations that had been observing the ghost ship began to notice dramatic changes. Energy fields pulsed visibly, shields and cloaking systems shifted, and the ghost ship's engines emitted a low hum that resonated across nearby systems. It was no longer a passive observer. It was active, alert, and unmistakably powerful. Aliens who had once doubted human existence were now forced to confront reality. The ghost ship was no longer just a relic of the past. It was alive with intelligence, history, and the return of the species that had long been silent. The humans, fully awakened, began exploring the ship and familiarizing themselves with their surroundings. Holographic projections offered them immediate updates about the galaxy's current state, civilizations that had risen and fallen, and the challenges they would face. They quickly understood that the galaxy had changed dramatically, but so had humans themselves. Time had not dulled their skills, knowledge, or ingenuity. In fact, the centuries of preparation embedded within the ghost ship had sharpened their understanding of strategy, diplomacy, and survival to levels unmatched by any other species. The first public demonstration of the humans' return came unexpectedly. From within the ghost ship, signals were broadcast in a way every nearby civilization could perceive clearly. The transmissions were not threats, they were displays of intelligence, engineering, and control. Massive holographic images of humans performing feats of problem-solving, technology manipulation, and environmental mastery appeared in orbit around major planets. Alien observers were stunned. Humans, thought extinct, were demonstrating capability far beyond anything previously imagined. The galaxy could no longer consider them myths or legends. Humans were here, and they were in control of their legacy. The humans took cautious steps to interact with the nearby civilizations. They sent messages, not through words alone, but through demonstrations of intelligence and cooperation. Each communication was carefully crafted to ensure it conveyed capability, wisdom, and peaceful intent. The galaxy had witnessed humans through a ghost ship for centuries, but now, for the first time, it was experiencing humans directly. This direct interaction caused awe and fear, respect and curiosity all at once. The humans had returned, but not recklessly. They had waited, prepared, and understood the value of patience. Diplomats, scientists, and leaders from nearby civilizations attempted to make contact, sending messages of inquiry and peace. The humans responded not with arrogance, but with intelligence and subtle authority. They demonstrated technologies that could heal planets, improve civilizations, and protect life. Yet, they also demonstrated defensive capabilities that made clear that any attempt to harm or deceive them would be catastrophic. It was a delicate balance, showcasing power while maintaining the message of careful guidance and measured influence. The ghost ship itself became a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. Systems that had lain dormant for millennia now performed tasks with precision, mapping entire star systems, analyzing planetary ecosystems, and cataloging alien technologies. The humans, assisted by the AI, used these tools to understand the galaxy comprehensively. They were not rushing into dominance, they were observing, learning, and positioning themselves strategically for the future. Every action, every signal, every projection demonstrated that humans had survived not by brute force, but by intelligence, patience, and foresight. Meanwhile, civilizations that had once considered humans as myths or legends now faced the undeniable truth. This species was both clever and enduring. Fleets scrambled, research stations monitored the ghost ship, and governments debated strategies. Some hoped to ally with humans, sensing opportunity and benefit. Others prepared defenses, uncertain whether humanity's return would bring cooperation or conflict. The humans, aware of every response, acted with careful precision. They did not seek to dominate, but they ensured that no one could underestimate them. Their strategy was subtle, deliberate, and centuries in the making. Within the ship, the humans explored laboratories, libraries, and archives that preserved humanity's collective knowledge. Science, engineering, medicine, and philosophy, all stored and organized for efficient access, were now at their fingertips. Humans could quickly adapt these lessons to the modern galaxy, integrating what they had preserved with what they were now observing. Every planet, every civilization, and every anomaly was recorded and analyzed. This was not exploration for conquest. It was preparation for interaction, understanding, and eventual leadership. The first public demonstration of humans' power and intelligence extended beyond observation. Small fleets attempting aggression were neutralized carefully, using strategies that demonstrated both precision and restraint. Systems were disrupted in ways that were reversible, signals intercepted and redirected, but no lives were harmed. It was a clear message. Humans could defend themselves effortlessly, but they did not need to destroy to demonstrate capability. Strategy, intelligence, and foresight were humanity's true weapons, and the galaxy understood this in ways it never had before. Meanwhile, humans began sending emissaries to key civilizations, traveling in smaller ships that emerged from the ghost ship. These emissaries were careful, measured, and intelligent. They did not demand allegiance, but they shared knowledge, offered guidance, and subtly influenced galactic policies in favor of stability and cooperation. Civilizations that had once mocked humanity now approached with caution and respect, realizing that the species had returned not as myth, but as a master of strategy, diplomacy, and foresight. The ghost ship continued its journey, moving across star systems like a silent guardian. Its presence became legendary almost instantly. Any civilization that encountered it was reminded that humans had survived for 20,000 years, had prepared for this return, and had done so with intelligence and patience unmatched in the galaxy. The humans, while few in number compared to other species, now carried the weight of millennia of preparation. Their influence, knowledge, and foresight made them a central force in interstellar affairs. As the humans explored the galaxy, they discovered civilizations struggling with conflicts, environmental crises, and technological challenges. They offered guidance, demonstrating solutions that combined intelligence, creativity, and foresight. Their interventions were subtle, often unnoticed at first, but profoundly effective. Civilizations began to rely on humans as advisors and problem solvers, recognizing that the species had returned not for conquest, but to guide, stabilize, and teach. The ghost ship became both a home and a symbol, a reminder of the enduring power of intelligence and preparation. The humans also began documenting the current state of the galaxy in ways no other species could. Entire star systems, civilizations, and anomalies were recorded and analyzed. Every piece of data, from planetary composition to political dynamics, was cataloged for future strategic decisions. Humans had survived not through numbers, but through foresight, patience, and intelligence. Now, with the galaxy's history unfolding before them, they were able to extend that foresight to shape the future in subtle, yet profound ways. By the time humans had fully emerged from the ghost ship, the galaxy had begun to recognize a simple truth. These were not the same humans who had vanished 20,000 years ago. They were wiser, more strategic, and fully prepared to interact with civilizations that had never seen them before. The legends of human ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability were not exaggerations. They were understated truths. And now, humanity was ready to reclaim its place among the